Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Police Accountability Show. Remember, when you're watching the Police Accountability Show, you agree to being offended. Also, nothing you see on the Police Accountability Show constitutes legal advice. Please seek out your local lawyer for your local laws. And welcome, everyone, and welcome to another Police Accountability Show. I'm your host, Chad Christophers, and today our topic is martial arts for the police. Should the police be better trained? We know they should be better trained. They need better training, and martial arts for police are definitely part of it. We see, and I have seen countless videos of people being violently arrested. And why? Because police aren't properly trained on how to restrain people safely. And that's where you see frustration on both sides. A person has to be arrested and the officer has to arrest them. And we see the fight, the all-out brawl that takes place as a result, right? When you have a correctly and properly trained police officer, someone who can arrest and understands martial arts, well, then you have a singular officer that can restrain another singular person. Doesn't matter the person's size, shape, strength level. Don't get me wrong, there will be exceptions to that. But for the most part, your average citizen is not a fighter, is not a professional warrior, does not have fighting skills. And I'm sorry, with all due respect, criminals, with all due respect, a lot of them aren't exactly the most hardworking, dedicated guys. They're not running out and spending hundreds of thousands of hours learning martial arts. A lot of criminals are malnourished, unfortunately have mental health problems, and usually aren't very strong. There are, of course, exceptions to this, right? Many exceptions, but that's the typical criminal. Isn't to necessarily be Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger with the big muscles. Now, there is criminals obviously like that, but significantly less than are actually out there. And that's where the police being trained in martial arts, and they perfected, or at least claim to have perfected, martial arts back in the 1600s. As an example, the samurai who used to police Japan, and I use them as an example because the police today in Japan are trained to use martial arts. And if you look up Japanese police arresting, you'll see one officer arresting one person. That's what you'll see. And you'll see them holding them down. They have no problem arresting people there. And I'm not saying I want to give necessarily the police, make them more powerful. We're just talking about restraining people. We don't need to teach them how to be martial artists, attack artists. We just need to give them enough proper specialist training to effect arrests in a more meaningful and better way. We need to support proper and specialist training such as martial arts for the police. Why? Because it makes their job easier. They're going to have an easier time. Like, we don't have to call 5 guys to arrest one. One can arrest one. 2 can arrest one. 2 can arrest 4 sometimes. If you have properly trained martial artists or specialists in restraining people out there, they can definitely sometimes restrain 2 or 3 guys themselves, because once the criminal realizes, or once the person they're arresting realizes that this person really knows how to fight, and there's nothing they can do about it, I'll be honest with you, a lot of them are probably just going to give up a lot quicker because they can't fight the officer. They can't stop a well-trained Aikido. And we see that with Steven Seagal, right? Where he's been, and you'll see that with martial artists, the cops always bring them in and try to make them sheriffs and deputies. And why? Because they can show them these great moves. They can show them how to restrain people. Those moves can be difficult unto themselves, but I do believe that most officers should be able to learn them. And we have the examples. We have the resources. So why aren't we training specialists? Well, that's up to us, right? We're too busy with the jack of all trade police officers when we need to get specialists to handle this correctly. So martial arts for the police, absolutely. It's surprising why they don't have it now. Because they don't have to pull their gun half as much. Also, when they know how to restrain the person, when someone acts up or tries to pull a knife on them, well, that also teaches them how to disarm people with knives and small weapons and guns. You'll find the police will be more likely just to disarm someone and restrain them than to pull out their gun and shoot. And why? Because they know how. They have the specialist skills. So what we need to do as a society, as a public, is need to tell our government, we need to tell our politicians, we need to tell the police boards, we need to tell the unions, these officers need better training. They need martial arts training. And not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. We need the police. We need some level of the police out there. There has always been some form of the police going all the way back to ancient Rome. Ancient Rome had its own version, like Praetorian Guard. And I don't know if I pronounce it, the Vigiles. I can't pronounce some of those old words, definitely the Italian words, but they did have their own version of the police that far back. So the police are nothing new. But the form that we have the police as democratic law enforcers that enforce laws are definitely significantly different than the old school watchmen of the 18 and 17 and 1600s, going all the way back to the police of ancient Rome. They've all had different roles. But in the past, soldiers usually, and honestly, what are the number one jobs of ex-military today is police. The military are shown a lot better martial arts than the police are, but we don't see them utilizing that as much. And I think that's a big loss to us all. We need to support getting better training for these officers, because think about it. We have a bad day and their mistakes, accidents happen, but having a police officer that can quickly and safely restrain someone when needed be, well, that could be you one day, and not by choice, not by force, but by complete accident. You can sometimes literally be that guy. And have you ever heard the song "In the Wrong Place at the Wrong Time"? Right? And we see examples, we see lawsuits with the police. You're in the wrong place, you're in the wrong time. You got 5 officers on top of you with their knees in you. That's hurtful. When just having the proper police with the proper training could easily restrain us safely and not hurt us. Are you as mad about being mistaken or about the accident? Probably not. So tell me in the comments, what do you think? Why? I think my attitude towards martial arts and the police is, why haven't they done it now? Why isn't it already happening? Why aren't we seeing examples of this? We spend a fortune on these police officers. We're not going to teach them to be elite killers like military guys. We're talking about just teaching them how to restrain people quickly and efficiently. So support it. Support police accountability. Everyone, my name is Chad Christophers. This was Police Accountability. Don't work too hard.